You're listening to Drummer Daily, the only daily podcast just for drummers. Hey, if you want to get better at playing with a click track, and who doesn't, go to boomclick.net/start today. Yo, welcome back to Drummer Daily. I'm happy you're here. And let's see what's going on today. Well, today is my son's birthday. And he turns 5, and if you have ever been around a child who is 4 or 5 or in that age range, then you probably know that the impending birthday has been, it's been talked about. I know for sure that he started keeping count somewhere around the 20-day mark. He started counting down. He knew how many days until his birthday. And so we're finally here. He's excited. Now this podcast, I'm recording it in advance. But the day this comes out is his birthday. If all goes according to plan. What do we always do? Let's see. We always wake him up with we have confetti that we always throw in his bedroom. We wake him up and do that, and then I think our plan is he loves eating chicken minis from Chick-fil-A, but we don't actually go out for breakfast much at our house because my wife and I we're not lazy. We don't. I'm a get up and get working in the morning kind of person, but I'm not like a get out of the house early in the morning person, and neither is she. And so we don't get out much early in the morning. And the closest Chick-fil-A is it's probably 25 minutes away. And so it's not probably 20 minutes away. It's not like a everyday kind of thing, it's not like going down the street. Anyway, the plan is to go get some chicken minis from Chick-fil-A for him for breakfast, and then got all kinds of things planned. Going to do some pizza later in the day and all that stuff. And then I know that. Fun fact: my birthday is actually next week, as when this comes out, and so my brother and his family are going to be in town next week. I don't think specifically for my birthday. It just happened to line up that way. They'll be staying with my parents who live in another town not too far away. And so we'll all be getting together for kind of a combined, for my birthday and then my son's birthday. And then my brother's birthday is later this month as well. And so it's kind of like a big combined birthday gathering that'll happen later. Anyway, all that to say, it's birthday time here, but you may not care much about whose birthday it is, but that's what's going on in my world, and I always like to share a little piece of what's actually going on in real life. It's not always just about drumming. So there you go. But I did get an email recently from someone, and he was very kind, and he said, hey, I might be in the details of this wrong. I have a horrible memory, and I don't have the email in front of me. But he said, hey, I drum for a church, and we have a decent drum kit, but I wanted to know if you have any tips for improving the sound of my drum kit. But we don't have really a budget to spend on anything, any gear for the drum kits. We're kind of stuck with what we have. How can we make it sound better? And I thought I'd kind of bring 2 points up about that. So the first is to answer that question, and then I'm going to get into something a little deeper about drum sound. But to answer the question, what I told him was the number one thing you can do if you're on a budget and you need to get your drums sounding better is to really dive deep into tuning drums. Now this might sound so obvious that it's boring to you, but I do think that people just don't spend enough time tuning drums. It's worth the time. So what I was going to say was, what I said to him was, the good thing about tuning is it's free. Turning those little tension rods with a drum key is 100% free. You've got everything you need to do that right there with you. It's your ears, it's a drum key, and it's your drumsticks, which I imagine you have if you're a drummer. But anyway, tuning drums is a big thing that can get you a long way, and you'd be surprised, even with really old, beat up heads, how good of a sound you can get. In fact, there are some drums that I have had in the past that I did not change the drum heads on them ever, because the old worn out drum head sound actually sounded really great on that drum, and I didn't want to ruin it, so I just kept it. And you'll see even guys, if you go to Instagram and watch these studio guys, a lot of times they actually, you'll see these heads that have they're just completely destroyed, but they still have them because they like the way that sounds. And so what I would say is, obviously don't fight your drums. Try to tune your drums in a way that they want to be tuned. So consider what kind of drums they are, what they're made out of, wood or metal, or what they're made out of, what kind of wood or what kind of metal they're made out of. But then also look at the drum heads. What condition are the drum heads in? What kind of drum heads are they? Are they thick heads, thin heads? Really get a deep look and think slowly and methodically about the drums and the sounds they're capable of producing. And then embrace those characteristics and tune your drums around that. So that's kind of part one, is don't move too fast. Really think about every piece of it. And then step two is to take your time tuning the drums. And I know for me, and I'm a professional and I do this a lot. I play drums a lot. I get paid to play drums. But I still sometimes catch myself trying to tune too quickly. Drum tension or drum head tension is a funny thing. The way that you are pulling a piece of plastic tight down on something, and when you pull that, it's a circular object, but you're pulling it down in a linear way. It's a really weird thing. And pulling it down tight in one spot doesn't pull it away from the opposite side. It does all these weird things when you're tuning a round drum. It impacts different things at diagonals. There's a lot of stuff. And I'm sure there are people out there who understand it from a scientific perspective and can just tune a drum, and they know exactly what's going on. When they screw this thing down, they know that these other 4 lugs are going to get loose or tight or whatever, this much, and they can be very scientific about it. I can only be so scientific about that, and then it just has to be trial and error. You have to just kind of mess with it and listen to it. Use your ears. But if you start rushing through it, you're going to start making compromises on your drum tuning. I, in fact, caught myself just today during a session. I was getting ready to play, and I had a specific idea of a sound I wanted for the drums to have, kind of a vintage, old, kind of round sound. And I was going for that sound, and it wasn't happening. And I, at a certain point, I caught myself thinking, this is good enough. This will be fine. And I stopped myself and thought, you know what? You haven't even spent 10 minutes tuning these drums, and these tracks are going to live forever. They are going to be permanently recorded and put out on an album somewhere. You can take 10 more minutes, 20 more minutes, 30 more minutes if it takes it to get these drums sounding exactly how they're supposed to sound. And so if you've got drums that you are not, I know you may not be tuning them for a specific song or whatever, but if you've got drums that you play all the time and not just for one specific song, how much more can you afford then to put a little time into the tuning of them? So take your time. Don't move fast through the tuning. Don't move that fast through thinking about how to approach tuning your drums. And then the third thing I want to say, this is kind of a more of a, I was going to say deep, but it may not be deep. It actually may be more broad. And that is that you have to consider what in the recording world we would call the signal chain. You have to think about, if you were to start at, if you were to draw a line from the most basic elementary part of your drum that's making sound, and draw a line all the way out to where the end listener is going to hear it, however they're going to hear it, whether it's being recorded or it's being put through a PA into speakers, or however it's going to be coming out to people. There are so many factors along the way. It is, like we talked about, the wood of the drums, the how thick the drums are, if there's a coating on the inside of the drums, how the hardware is mounted, what kind of hardware is on it. Are the rims triple flanged or die cast or single flange or no flange? What is the shape of the hoop? It actually does affect the sound of the drum. What kind of drum heads? What kind of drum sticks? On and on. But then you go to microphones you've got. Where are the microphones placed? What kind of microphones are they? What kind of mixer are they running into? Is the sound going to be compressed or EQ'd or anything adjusted before it goes into the system? Is it being recorded? What kind of sample rate is there being recorded? You get what I'm saying. On and on and on and on down the chain until it actually comes out and a listener is listening to it. There are so many factors that go into the end result of what your drums sound like to someone listening to them. So again, think about that and think about how you can either make a massive change to one piece of that to impact the end result, or you can make a little change to a lot of that. And maybe I'll do another episode about this, but I just want to bring up that, for example, I run, when I track my drums, record them, I run every single track that I record through an emulation of a recording console of an old analog, like an SSL recording console, every channel. And personally, if I were to just run like if I have my kick drum mic that's running through this emulation of a recording console, so it just sounds like a channel. It doesn't do any EQ or anything. It just gives a little character to the sound. But when I turn that on, that emulation on for that channel, that kick drum, I turn it on and I A/B it. So I turn it on, then I turn it off. Honestly, for me, it's really hard to hear the difference on a single track like that when I just turned that one thing on. Same thing I sometimes will run my drums through tape emulation to emulate the sound of the drums being recorded to analog tape instead of being recorded digitally. And the same thing, it's really hard for me to hear the difference it makes on a single drum or a single sound. But when I do that to every single channel that I'm recording in with my drums, you better believe I can hear a difference. And so it's those little changes you make, and you can be reserved in how you change the tuning of a drum, for example, if you know that the mixer's the sound guy's gonna do this or that to it or whatever. You have to think about all those things as a drummer and think about the end result. Because if there's little changes being made all along the way, eventually that's gonna add up at the end to something really drastic and impactful. So you don't have to fix every problem necessarily just with the tuning, unless you want to, but you have to consider everything that's going to touch that sound before it gets out to your listeners. All right, so that was kind of like a 3-in-1. You got an extra bonus with your podcast today. So I hope this has been helpful for you. You got 3 tips about drumming instead of just 1 or 2. So this will hopefully carry you. If you're listening to this in real time, I think this comes out on a Friday. Hopefully this will carry you through the weekend and give you a lot to think about and mess with on your own drums during my time off from creating podcasts. So anyway, hope you're doing well. We'll talk again very soon. Thanks for listening. Bye.